Welcome to the Daily Drop, your daily dose of everything hot, happening, and absolutely electric in the world of sports. I'm Mike.
And I'm Tara, and we are absolutely buzzing today because the sports world decided to dial it up to 11. From massive upsets to goal-scoring frenzies, we've got a packed show for you.
You are not kidding, Tara. Let's kick things off in the NBA. And holy smokes, the Orlando Magic just dropped a nuclear bomb on the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh my goodness, Mike. Obliterated them. The stat of the day says it all. Orlando Magic obliterate the Milwaukee Bucks by 39 points. 39. That's not a win. That's a statement. A declaration of war against the Eastern Conference.
A declaration of war indeed. 130-91. I mean, we've seen the Magic showing flashes this season, but to do this to a Bucks team that, let's be honest, has been trending up themselves, 67% in February, a plus 13.7 against their baseline, this is just mind-boggling. Is this a fluke, or are the Magic actually for real?
I think it's a lot more than a fluke, Mike. A 39-point victory isn't something you just stumble into. It's execution, it's defensive intensity, it's hitting shots, and it's pure belief. This isn't a team that just got lucky. This is a team that believes they belong, and they just served a notice to the entire league. They're saying, don't sleep on us. My hot take? They just planted their flag firmly in the playoff conversation.
I'm with you. And speaking of teams planting their flags, let's look at the Power Index top 5 in the NBA. The San Antonio Spurs are absolutely dominating at number 1 with 81.7 points. Then OKC, Charlotte, the Knicks, and the Phoenix Suns rounding out the top 5. Spurs at the top, not a huge surprise. They've been consistently excellent. But OKC at 2 and Charlotte at 3, that's definitely showing some serious growth.
Absolutely. OKC has been building something special, and it seems like it's finally coalescing. And Charlotte, the Hornets, at 3, that's fantastic to see. They've got a young, athletic core, and they're clearly putting it together. My concern, though, is seeing the Knicks in the top 5 of the Power Index after they just lost to the Lakers, 110-97. Is the Power Index looking at something we're not, or was that just a blip for New York?
That's a great question. The Power Index usually factors in a deeper dive of analytics, strength of schedule, individual player performance beyond just wins and losses. So while a singular loss can sting, it might not completely derail their overall standing if the underlying metrics are still strong. It could be a reflection of their competitive strength, even in a loss, or maybe the Lakers just had an incredible night.
Well, the Lakers certainly did what they needed to do. We also saw Boston take down Cleveland, 109-98, which is just another day at the office for the Celtics, consistently strong. And then the Miami Heat, who've been struggling a bit, only going 50% in February, which is a significant drop from their baseline. They managed to beat the Detroit Pistons, 121-110. But the Pistons, on the flip side, have been on fire. They went 82% in February, a massive plus 17.1 versus their season baseline. That's a trend we absolutely need to talk about.
That is phenomenal. Detroit, 82% in February? That's not just a good month, that's a complete turnaround. Are the Pistons finally finding their rhythm, Tara, or is this a dead cat bounce for a team that's been rebuilding for so long?
Mike, I don't think it's a bounce. I think it's a surge. You don't get that kind of consistency and percentage jump by accident. This screams development, player cohesion, and finding a winning identity. They might have lost to Miami, but that's one game. The trend indicates they are a different team now than they were earlier in the season. I'm starting to believe the Pistons are legitimately turning a corner. They're no longer just collecting draft picks, they're collecting wins.
I love that. Collecting wins. Let's hope that trend continues for them. Now, switching gears to MLB, where the San Francisco Giants are leading the Power Index at 67 points, followed by the Mets, Padres, Marlins, and surprisingly, the Colorado Rockies cracking the top 5 at 55.1 points.
The Rockies? That's the curveball of the day for me. Usually when we talk about the Rockies, it's about Coors Field inflating offensive stats, not necessarily about them being a top-tier team. It makes me wonder what the Power Index is seeing there. Are they building a better pitching staff, or is their offense just that potent?
Well, they must be doing something right to be up there with the Giants and Mets. And speaking of interesting performances, the Oakland Athletics, who aren't exactly known for their winning ways, managed to beat the Angels 7-4 and then follow it up with an 11-7 win over the Dodgers, an 11-run game. And our stat of the day highlights Tommy White, who absolutely raked with a 76.75 MLB rating in that wild game against the Athletics.
Tommy White is making a name for himself. And the A's beating both LA teams, that's a huge upset and a confidence booster for that club. Maybe they're not just playing out the season. Maybe they're looking to play spoiler. And a quick shout out to the Blue Jays for shutting out the Orioles 1-0. Pitching wins games, folks.
Absolutely. Looking at the MLB trends, the Cleveland Guardians went 50% in March, a solid plus 19.2 versus their baseline. Arizona Diamondbacks are struggling in back-to-back games, down 16.7%, while the Boston Red Sox are up 10.1% in their back-to-backs. That consistency in consecutive games is a big deal in a long MLB season. Boston finding that rhythm is crucial.
It really is. Managing the grind of a 162-game season is what separates the contenders from the pretenders, and it looks like the Red Sox are figuring it out, especially when they're playing those demanding back-to-backs. Good for them.
From the diamond to the pitch, let's move to MLS. New York City FC leads the Power Index at 85.5 points, followed closely by LAFC at 82, Real Salt Lake at 80.7, then Charlotte FC and Austin FC tie at 64.6. That top three is really tight.
Very tight. NYCFC and LAFC always seem to be at the top of the conversation, but RSL breaking into that elite tier is excellent. On the field, we had Toronto eke out a 1-0 win against Cincinnati, and Montreal absolutely dominated Red Bull New York, 3-0. Clean sheet for Montreal, a solid performance. Our stat of the day in MLS was no standout stats today, just a quiet day in the football world, which, sometimes those quiet days are just brewing up something big for tomorrow.
You know what, Tara? Even on a quiet day, 3-0 is a standout score for me. Shutting out a team in a derby match like Montreal did against RBNY, that's not quiet, that's clinical. RBNY has to be feeling the pressure after that one.
You're absolutely right, Mike. My apologies to Montreal for downplaying that clean sheet dominance. Clinical is the perfect word.
Let's hit the ice with the NHL. The Power Index Top 5 has the Buffalo Sabres leading at 79.1 points. Then we have the Utah Mammoth at 75.7, Columbus Blue Jackets, New York Islanders, and Carolina Hurricanes. Wait a minute. The Utah Mammoth? I'm seeing that name for the first time in the top 5. Is this a new franchise absolutely tearing it up?
They must be, Mike. And to be at number 2 in the Power Index right out of the gate, or after a significant period of play, is mind-blowing. That's incredible for a burgeoning market. Imagine the fan excitement there. But the biggest story for me today is the Sabres leading the league in Power Index, and then in the same breath, they played in what can only be described as a barn burner. Our stat of the day: Tampa Bay and Buffalo combined for a staggering 15 goals in a wild 8-7 game. Buffalo taking the win.
What a game! 8-7. That's a throwback to the old days of hockey. Pure offense, no defense, just trading blows. For the Sabres to win that high-scoring affair and be number 1 in the Power Index, it shows they're not just relying on defense, they're an offensive juggernaut. But Tara, giving up 7 goals, does that concern you for a number 1 team?
It does a little. You can't consistently win giving up 7 goals, even if your offense is elite. But for one game, it makes for incredible entertainment, and it shows the mental toughness to outscore an equally potent team like Tampa Bay. It's a double-edged sword. Exciting to watch, but maybe not a recipe for deep playoff runs. You need to tighten up the defense eventually. Elsewhere, we saw some more defensive showcases. St. Louis shut out Anaheim 4-0, and Detroit shut out New Jersey 3-0. So it's a tale of 2 different types of hockey today.
Definitely. And looking at the NHL trends, the Boston Bruins went 91% in January, a massive plus 22.5 versus their season baseline. Just absolute dominance. But on the flip side, the Colorado Avalanche and Minnesota Wild both went 44% in January, a minus 11.1 against their baseline. What's going on in the Central Division?
The Bruins were clearly just on another level. That kind of percentage is almost unheard of for an entire month. They just completely clicked. But the Avs and the Wild both dipping in the same month and by the same margin suggests a slump for those teams, or perhaps they hit a particularly tough patch in their schedule. The Avs are usually a perennial contender, so that's a bit worrying for their fans. I'd be keeping a close eye on their form in the coming weeks. Are they just experiencing a mid-season lull, or is there a bigger issue?
Absolutely. You don't want those negative trends to linger too long. Let's head across the pond to La Liga. Barcelona leads the Power Index with 81 points, followed by Getafe at 79.1, Atletico Madrid at 76.8, Valencia, and Villarreal. Solid top 3. No huge surprises there.
Very tight. Barcelona, Getafe, Atletico, that's a very competitive top of the table. We saw Getafe secure a 2-0 win against Real Betis, which is a fantastic result for them. Valencia also snatched a thrilling 3-2 win against Alaves. Our stat of the day highlights that perfectly. Valencia and Alaves combined for 5 goals in a wild 3-2 thriller. That's the kind of back-and-forth action fans absolutely love.
High-scoring games are always great for the highlight reels. Now, for the English Premier League, this Power Index top 5 is definitely going to raise some eyebrows. Wolverhampton Wanderers at number 1 with 87.9 points, Everton at 2 with 86.8, and Arsenal at 3 with 84.4. Sunderland and Chelsea round out the top 5. Wolves and Everton at the very top? That is a huge shakeup.
Mike, I almost spit out my coffee when I saw that. Wolves at number 1 and Everton at number 2, that is absolutely seismic. Traditionally, we're talking about your Man City, Liverpool, United, Chelsea, Arsenal. For Wolves and Everton to be leading the charge, it shows just how competitive the Premier League is becoming. It also signals incredible coaching and player development at those clubs. What do you think is driving the search for them? Is it defensive solidity, clinical finishing, or just sheer grit?
I think it has to be a combination, Tara. For them to rise above some of the perennial